My friend David called me at 2 a.m. last Tuesday. He was sitting in his car outside what used to be his house. The locks had been changed. His wife of 7 years decided she was done. No warning, no conversation. Just done. David makes $140,000 a year. Good job. Good man. Paid for everything. Never cheated. Never hit her. Did everything right, or so he thought. Now he's paying $7,500 a month in temporary support while the divorce processes. He sees his daughter every other weekend. He lives in a studio apartment that costs more than most people's houses. And he keeps asking me the same question. How did I not see this coming? I'm going to tell you how. And I'm going to tell you what nobody else will. This isn't about hating women. This isn't some angry rant from a basement. This is about understanding the game you're playing so you don't end up like David, sitting in your car at 2 a.m., wondering where your life went. Carl Jung said something that changed how I see everything. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Most men are unconscious. They move through relationships on autopilot. They follow a script they never wrote. Get girlfriend, move in together, get married, have kids. And they never stop to ask, what am I actually agreeing to here? Today, we're making the unconscious conscious. We're looking at what's really happening in modern dating and relationships, not what we wish was happening. Not what happened 30 years ago. What's happening right now? And yes, the rules have changed. The incentives have changed. The risks have changed. If you're still playing by your grandfather's rules, you're going to lose. Not because you're weak. Not because you're wrong, but because you're playing a different game than you think you're playing. Let me be clear from the start. There are good women out there, women who want genuine partnership, women who invest as much as they receive, women who will build something real with you. But there are also women who see relationships as transactions, who see men as resources to extract value from, who have learned to use the legal system, social expectations, and emotional manipulation to get what they want while giving as little as possible. Your job is to tell the difference before you're locked in, before you've signed contracts, before there are kids involved, before it costs you everything to walk away. Jordan Peterson talks about being a monster, not becoming one, but having the capacity for it and choosing not to use it. He says, a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. That's what we're talking about today. Not how to harm anyone, but how to be dangerous enough that you cannot be preyed upon. How to have the awareness, the boundaries, and the self-respect that makes you a bad target. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Some people are looking for prey. Not all people, not most people, but some. And if you can't identify them, you're vulnerable. I've spent the last 10 years watching men destroy themselves in relationships. Good men, smart men, men with careers and educations and families, men who should have known better, and the pattern is always the same. They see what they want to see. They ignore what they don't want to believe. They invest everything into a fantasy version of the relationship. And when reality crashes in, they're not prepared. This video is about preparation, about awareness, about understanding the landscape you're operating in. We're going to cover 5 things today. First, how selection really works in modern dating and what you're actually being selected for. Second, the financial architecture of modern relationships and how men get trapped. Third, how to identify red flags before you're too invested to walk away. Fourth, the boundaries you must maintain if you want to survive. And fifth, how to build yourself into someone who can't be hunked. But before we get into all that, you need to understand one fundamental truth. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Your why cannot be her. Your why cannot be the relationship. Your why must be something inside you. Something that exists, whether she's there or not. Something that would survive if she left tomorrow, because she might. People change, feelings change, circumstances change. The woman who loves you today might not love you in 5 years. That's not betrayal, that's life. The men who survive are the men who built something that doesn't depend on any one person staying. The men who get destroyed are the men who made the relationship their entire identity. I know this sounds harsh. I know it sounds unromantic. Good. Romance without strategy is how men end up sitting in their cars at 2 a.m., wondering what happened. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved. If you cannot be both," he was talking about rulers, but the principle applies. It's better to be respected than to be nice. It's better to maintain boundaries than to be agreeable. It's better to walk away than to be used. This doesn't mean being cruel. It means being clear. It means knowing what you will and won't accept. It means having standards and enforcing them. In the next section, we're going to break down exactly how selection works in modern dating. Why certain men get chosen, why others get passed over, and what happens after you're selected. Because being chosen isn't the end of the story, it's the beginning. And what comes next depends entirely on whether you understand what you were chosen for. Let's talk about selection, not the romantic version. The real version, I have a friend named Marcus. 34 years old, has a daughter from a previous relationship, good father. Pays his support on time, shows up for custody, does everything right. Marcus has been on 43 first dates in the last 2 years. 43. You know how many second dates he got? 6. You know why? The moment women find out he has a kid, they're gone. Not all of them, but most. They don't want to deal with someone else's child. They don't want to navigate custody schedules. They don't want the ex-girlfriend in the picture. That's rational. I get it. But here's what Marcus didn't understand 5 years ago when he had that kid. He was eliminating himself from most of the dating pool forever. His past choices follow him everywhere. And nobody told him that before he made those choices. Carl Jung talked about the shadow, the parts of reality we refuse to see because they're uncomfortable. Most men have a shadow around dating. They don't want to see how it really works. They want to believe in fairy tales, here's how it actually works. Women select men for specific purposes, not one purpose. Multiple purposes. And those purposes change based on where she is in her life. A woman in her 20s might select men for excitement, for status, for the experience. She's not thinking long-term. She's not looking to build. She's exploring. A woman in her 30s starts selecting differently. Now she's looking at resources, stability, provider potential. Can this man support the life she wants? Can he give her children? Can he maintain a household? A woman in her 40s who's been through a divorce. She's selecting for completely different things. Companionship, maybe. Financial security, definitely. But she's not looking to build a family. She's looking to maintain a lifestyle. None of this is wrong. Everyone selects based on their needs. The problem is when men don't understand what they're being selected for. You think she chose you because you're special, because of your personality, because of your character, maybe. But probably because you checked certain boxes she needed checked right now. Robert Greene wrote, "When you show yourself to the world and display your talents, you naturally stir all kinds of resentment, envy, and other manifestations of insecurity." He's talking about power dynamics. Every relationship is a power dynamic. The question is, do you understand your position in that dynamic? Here's what most men miss. Selection isn't permanent. Just because she chose you doesn't mean she'll keep choosing you. You have to remain worth choosing. That means continuous value, continuous growth, continuous maintenance of whatever she selected you for. Stop growing? She might leave. Lose your job? She might leave. Get comfortable and stop trying? She might leave. This isn't about living in fear. It's about understanding that relationships are not destinations. They're ongoing negotiations. Now let's talk about money, because this is where men get absolutely destroyed. I know a guy named Thomas. Makes $210,000 a year. Sounds rich, right? Here's his reality. 42% goes to taxes. That's $88,000 gone before he sees it. He pays $6,100 a month in child support from his first marriage. That's $73,000 a year. He pays $3,800 a month in alimony. That's $45,000 a year. Do the math. He makes $210,000. After taxes, support, and alimony, he has about $4,000 a month to actually live on. $48,000 a year. Someone making $60,000 with no obligations has more spending money than Thomas. But Thomas can't quit his job. He can't take a lower paying position he'd enjoy more. He's locked into that salary for the next 12 years. This is what I mean by financial architecture. The decisions you make today build structures that control your future. Thomas didn't understand that when he was 28 and getting married. He didn't understand what he was signing up for. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Beautiful philosophy, but it doesn't apply to child support. What stands in your way stays in your way for 18 years minimum. Here's what creates the trap. The system is designed to extract maximum resources from men regardless of circumstances. Your income goes up, your payments go up, you lose your job. Good luck getting those payments reduced before you're already buried in debt. The court doesn't care about fair. The court follows formulas. The court assumes you'll keep earning what you earned at your peak forever. And here's the part that makes men crazy. The money you pay has almost no accountability. Child support goes to the custodial parent. How she spends it, not your business. Whether she works, not required. Whether the money actually benefits the child, nobody checks. I'm not saying don't support your children. I'm saying understand what you're agreeing to before there are children. Because once they exist, you have zero control over the financial structure that follows. Schopenhauer said, "We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people." Most men forfeit 3/4 of their income because they followed a script without reading it first. The social expectation is that men shouldn't complain. You made a kid. Pay for it? Struggling? Work harder. Can't afford your obligations? You're a deadbeat. The trap has a gag attached. You're not allowed to talk about how unfair it is. You're not allowed to acknowledge that the system doesn't care about your circumstances. So men suffer silently. They work jobs they hate. They live in apartments they can barely afford. They see their kids every other weekend. And they're expected to smile through it all. This isn't about escaping responsibility. This is about not creating responsibilities you cannot sustain. About understanding the full cost before you sign the contract. Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Your freedom is won by understanding what you can control. You can control who you have children with. You can control when you have children. You can control whether you legally bind yourself to someone. Let me tell you about Sarah. Not her real name, but this is a real story. Sarah had 3 kids with 3 different men. All 3 men pay child support. None of them have equal custody. Sarah doesn't work. She collects about $8,400 a month between the 3 support payments and doesn't account for how she spends any of it. Her oldest child's father is a teacher. Makes $47,000 a year. Pays $900 a month. Sees his son twice a month. The second child's father is a contractor. Makes $72,000 a year. Pays $1,400 a month. Has his daughter every other weekend. The third child's father is in tech. Makes $130,000. Pays $5,100 a month. Fights for every extra hour with his son. Sarah spends her time posting on social media about how hard single motherhood is. She goes on vacations. She has a new car. She has a nice apartment, all funded by men she's no longer with. Now, before you say I'm being unfair to Sarah, understand this. Sarah is playing by the rules of the system. The system allows this. The system encourages this. The system makes it profitable. Is every woman doing this? No. Are most women doing this? No, but some are. And if you cannot tell the difference, you are vulnerable. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." Sarah appears to be a struggling single mother. What she really is? That's different. Your job as a man is to see what people really are before you're legally bound to them, before there are kids. Before you sign contracts, you cannot escape. How do you do that? You watch for patterns. Here's the first pattern. How does she talk about her exes? If every previous relationship ended because the man was terrible, you're looking at someone who never takes responsibility. If all her exes are crazy, controlling, abusive, deadbeats, understand something, you will be described the same way when this ends. People who blame everyone else for their problems never change. They just find new people to blame. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." When she talks about her exes, she's telling you who she is. Listen carefully. Second pattern. How does she handle money? Does she spend more than she makes? Does she expect you to pay for everything? Does she have credit card debt she can't explain? Does she buy things she doesn't need to impress people she doesn't like? Financial irresponsibility is not cute. It's not something you can fix. It's a fundamental character trait. If she's bad with money before you're committed, she'd be bad with money after. Except then it'll be your money too. Third pattern. How does she treat people who cannot do anything for her? Watch how she talks to waiters. Watch how she treats service workers. Watch how she interacts with your friends who aren't high status. That's how she treat you eventually. Right now she needs you, so she's nice. Once she has you locked in, the mask comes off. Nietzsche wrote, "The snake which cannot cast its skin has to die." As well the minds which are prevented from changing their opinions. They cease to be mind. But some people never change. They just change targets. Fourth pattern, and this is critical. How does she handle disappointment? Small disappointments, not major life events. Small things. Traffic. A restaurant being closed. Plans changing. Weather being bad. If small disappointments trigger major emotional reactions, imagine what happens during real problems. Imagine what happens when there's financial stress, when there's a sick child, when life gets actually hard. Emotional regulation is everything. A woman who cannot handle minor setbacks will make your life miserable during major ones. I watched my friend Jake ignore this pattern. His girlfriend would melt down over tiny things. Restaurant got her order wrong? Screaming at the staff. Traffic made them late? Blamed him for not leaving earlier. Her phone died? Acted like the world was ending. Jake thought it was kind of cute. He thought she was passionate. He married her. 3 years later, they had a baby. The baby had colic. Cried constantly for 4 months. She couldn't handle it. She blamed Jake. She blamed the doctors. She blamed the universe. She spiraled into rage and depression. Jake filed for divorce when the baby was 8 months old. He now pays $3,200 a month in support and sees his daughter every other weekend. All because he thought emotional instability was passion. Thomas Hobbes said, "The condition of man is a condition of war of everyone against everyone. Relationships aren't war. Entering them without awareness is surrender." Here's another pattern that destroys men. The woman who needs constant validation, constant attention, constant proof of your commitment. She needs you to text her all day. She needs you to cancel plans with friends. She needs you to prove you love her repeatedly. She gets jealous of your hobbies. She gets jealous of your time. She gets jealous of anything that isn't her. This isn't love. This is insecurity. And insecurity is a bottomless pit. You cannot fill it. You cannot fix it. You can only exhaust yourself trying. Plato wrote, "The greatest wealth is to live content with little, but some people will never be content. They will consume everything you give and demand more. They will take your time, your energy, your money, your identity, and still feel empty. These are the women you must identify and avoid. Not because they're evil, but because they're dangerous to your well-being." Now, let's talk about boundaries, because this is where most men fail completely. A boundary is not a suggestion. It's not something you enforce when you feel like it. It's not negotiable based on her feelings. A boundary is a line you draw that you will defend every single time, regardless of consequences. Let me tell you what boundaries actually look like. Not theory, practice. Financial boundary number 1. You don't combine finances until you're married. And even then, you think carefully. You keep separate accounts. You have money she doesn't control. You maintain financial independence. Why? Because the moment your money becomes our money, you've lost leverage. You've lost options. You've lost the ability to walk away if you need to. Robert Greene teaches, keep people off balance and in the dark by never revealing the purpose behind your actions. You don't need to be manipulative, but you need to maintain mystery, maintain independence, maintain options. Financial boundary number 2. You don't pay for everything, not during dating. Not in relationships, not ever. The person who pays for everything becomes a resource, not a partner. Now, I'm not saying split every check down the middle. I'm not saying never be generous. I'm saying watch for reciprocity. Does she ever pay? Does she ever offer? Does she contribute in equivalent ways? If you're always paying and she's always receiving, you're not in a relationship. You're funding a lifestyle. I have a friend named Chris. He paid for everything during dating. Dinners, trips, entertainment, everything. He thought he was being a gentleman. She thought she found an ATM. They moved in together. She quit her job because she was stressed. He supported both of them for 8 months. When he suggested she needed to work, she accused him of being controlling. When he insisted, she left. She's now with another guy. Same pattern. He's paying for everything. Chris didn't set boundaries early. By the time he tried, it was too late. The relationship was already defined as him providing and her consuming. Financial boundary number 3, and this is critical. You don't consign loans. You don't add her to your accounts. You don't become financially entangled before you're legally committed. Why? Because financial entanglement is harder to escape than marriage. If you break up and your name is on her car loan, you're still liable. If she has access to your accounts and drains them, good luck getting that money back. Protect your assets like they're the foundation of your future, because they are. Now, let's talk about emotional boundaries. This is where nice guys destroy themselves. Emotional boundary number 1. You maintain your own identity, your own friends, your own hobbies, your own life outside the relationship. The moment you make her your entire world, you've lost yourself. And ironically, the moment you lose yourself, you become less attractive to her. She didn't choose you to be her accessory. She chose you because you were someone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking. Your happiness cannot depend on her. It must exist independently. Otherwise, you're not a partner. You're dependent. I watched my friend Alex make this mistake. He started dating a woman. Within 3 months, he stopped going to the gym, stopped seeing his friends, stopped doing his hobbies. He became completely absorbed in the relationship. She left him after 7 months. You know what she said? You're too clingy. You have no life of your own. Alex gave up everything for her. She lost respect for him because of it. Emotional boundary number 2. You don't tolerate disrespect. Not once. Not as a joke. Not because she's having a bad day. Never. The moment you accept disrespect, you teach her that you'll accept more of it. The moment you laugh off an insult, you've established that insulting you is acceptable. Women test boundaries, not consciously always. But they test, they push, they see what you'll tolerate. If you tolerate disrespect, that becomes your new normal. Set the standard early. The first time she crosses a line, address it immediately. Calmly, clearly, no anger, no drama. Just, that's not acceptable. Don't do it again. If she responds with more disrespect, walk away, immediately. That woman will never respect you. Emotional boundary number 3. You don't abandon yourself to make her happy. You don't change your core values. You don't compromise your standards. You don't become someone different to keep her around. Jung taught, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. If you have to pretend to be someone else to keep her, you've already lost. Now let's talk about the biggest boundary. The one that determines everything else. The boundary around fatherhood. You do not get anyone pregnant until you're absolutely certain about 3 things. 1, that this woman would be a good mother. 2, that you're prepared for 18 years of legal and financial obligation. 3, that you can handle co-parenting with this person even if the relationship ends. Notice I didn't say even if. I said when, because most relationships end. And if there's a child, you're connected to that person forever. Freud talked about the death drive, the unconscious desire for self-destruction. Getting the wrong woman pregnant, that's the death drive in action. That's unconscious self-destruction, one decision, one moment of poor judgment or failure to use protection. That's all it takes to build a financial and legal structure that will control your life for 2 decades. I cannot stress this enough. Protect yourself, always, every single time. No exceptions, no matter what she says, no matter how much you trust her, no matter how caught up in the moment you are. Your future depends on this one thing more than anything else. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." He was talking about solitude. But the principle applies. You can only protect yourself when you maintain independence. Now here's what happens when you enforce boundaries. She'll push back. She'll test harder. She'll get emotional. She'll accuse you of not loving her. She'll say you don't trust her. She'll make it about your flaws instead of her behavior. This is the test. This is where most men fold. They feel guilty. They worry they're being too harsh. They convince themselves she's right. Don't fold. Her reaction to your boundaries tells you everything you need to know. A woman who respects you will respect your boundaries. She might not like them. She might need to adjust, but she respects them. A woman who attacks your boundaries, who makes you feel guilty for having them, who tries to manipulate you into dropping them, that woman does not respect you. That woman sees you as a resource to exploit. Walk away from that woman, immediately, no matter how much you've invested. No matter how much you want it to work, walk away. Because if you stay, you're teaching her that your boundaries don't matter. And once she knows that she owns you,